I still remember the day I received the news that I had won the lawsuit. I was over the moon with excitement. It had been a long and arduous journey, but finally, justice had been served. I had been wronged by my former employer, and the court had ruled in my favor. I was awarded $250,000 in damages. I immediately called my daughter to share the news with her. She had always been my rock, my confidant, and my best friend. We had been through thick and thin together, and I knew that she would be thrilled for me. But little did I know, her response would change everything. As soon as I told her about the lawsuit, she went silent. I thought maybe she was just shocked, or maybe she was just taking a moment to process the news. But then she spoke, and her words cut through me like a knife. "You owe me $100,000 for raising me," she said, her voice cold and calculating. I was speechless. I didn't know what to say, or how to respond. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Was she serious? Did she really think that I owed her money for being her father? I tried to reason with her, to explain to her that being a parent wasn't a business transaction. But she wouldn't listen. She just kept repeating her demand, like a mantra. I was starting to feel angry, and hurt, and betrayed. I didn't know what to do, or how to react. I felt like my whole world had been turned upside down. And then, she dropped the bombshell. "If you don't pay me, I'll never speak to you again," she said, her voice dripping with malice. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say, or how to respond. I felt like I was being held hostage by my own daughter. I didn't know what to do, but I knew that I couldn't give in to her demands. I couldn't let her blackmail me into paying her money that I didn't owe her. But as I sat there, feeling angry and hurt and betrayed, I couldn't help but wonder. What had I done wrong? Why was my daughter so angry with me? And what would happen next? I sat there, staring at the phone, feeling like I had been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe what my daughter was saying. I had always been a good father, providing for her, loving her, and supporting her. I had never been abusive, neglectful, or cruel. I had always put her needs before my own. But as I thought back, I realized that things had changed over the years. My daughter had grown up, and she had become more independent. She had started to make her own decisions, and she had begun to pull away from me. I had tried to stay close to her, but she had pushed me away. I remembered the fights we had, the arguments, and the shouting matches. I had always thought that we were just having normal teenage disagreements, but now I realized that there was something deeper going on. My daughter was angry with me, and she had been for a long time. I thought about all the times I had tried to talk to her, to reason with her, and to understand her. But she had never listened. She had always shut me down, telling me that I didn't understand her, that I was clueless. I had tried to be patient, to give her space, and to let her come to me when she was ready to talk. But it seemed like that day was never going to come. I looked around my darkening room, feeling the weight of my daughter's words bearing down on me. I felt like I was being suffocated by my own guilt and regret. I had always thought that I was a good father, but now I was starting to doubt myself. Had I done something wrong? Had I missed something? I thought about my wife, my daughter's mother, who had passed away when my daughter was just a teenager. I had tried to raise her on my own, to be both mother and father to her. But had I done enough? Had I been enough? The question swirled in my head, making me feel dizzy and disoriented. I didn't know what to do, or how to react. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, and I couldn't wake up. I tried to call my daughter back, to talk to her, to reason with her. But she didn't answer. I left message after message, but she didn't call back. I sent her texts, but she didn't respond. I was starting to feel desperate, like I was losing my mind. I didn't know what to do, or how to reach my daughter. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of uncertainty, and I didn't know how to swim. As the days turned into weeks, I became withdrawn and isolated. I stopped going out, stopped seeing friends, and stopped taking care of myself. I just sat in my darkening room, feeling sorry for myself, and wondering what I had done wrong. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. I felt like I was stuck in a rut, and I didn't know how to get out. I was starting to lose hope, to lose faith in myself, and to lose faith in my daughter. And then, one day, I received a letter in the mail. It was from my daughter, and it was addressed to me. I opened it with trembling hands, feeling like I was about to receive a death sentence. The letter was short and to the point. It said that my daughter was giving me an ultimatum. If I didn't pay her the $100,000 she was demanding, she would never speak to me again. She would cut me out of her life, and she would make sure that I never saw my grandchildren. I felt like I had been punched in the gut again. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My daughter was willing to cut me out of her life, to never speak to me again, all because of money. I felt like I was being held hostage, like I was being blackmailed. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, and I didn't know how to wake up. I was starting to lose my mind, to lose my grip on reality. I didn't know how much more I could take. As I sat there, staring at the letter, feeling like I was about to collapse, I knew that I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there, feeling sorry for myself. I had to take action. I had to fight back. But how? I sat there, staring at the letter, feeling like I was about to collapse. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. I felt like I was trapped in a corner, with no way out. I thought about calling my daughter, about trying to reason with her, but I knew it wouldn't work. She had made it clear that she wasn't interested in talking, that she only wanted one thing, money. I thought about paying her, about giving in to her demands, but I knew I couldn't do that. I had worked hard for my money, and I wasn't about to give it away to someone who was blackmailing me. I thought about seeking advice, about talking to a lawyer or a counselor, but I didn't know where to turn. As I sat there, feeling helpless and hopeless, I heard a knock at the door. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Johnson. She was a kind woman, always willing to lend a listening ear. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should open the door, but something about her gentle knock made me feel like I could trust her. I opened the door, and Mrs. Johnson smiled at me. "Hello, dear," she said. "I saw your lights on and I thought I'd check in on you. You look like you've lost your last friend." I smiled, feeling a lump form in my throat. "I'm just having a tough time, Mrs. Johnson," I said. "My daughter is, well, it's a long story." Mrs. Johnson's expression softened. "Come on in, dear," she said. "I'm all ears." I hesitated for a moment, but something about Mrs. Johnson's kind eyes made me feel like I could trust her. I invited her in, and we sat down in the living room. I told her everything, about my daughter's demands, about the letter, about how I was feeling trapped and helpless. Mrs. Johnson listened attentively, her expression growing more and more concerned. When I finished talking, she took my hand in hers. "You don't have to go through this alone," she said. "There are people who can help you, people who can give you advice and support." I felt a lump form in my throat. "I don't know what to do," I said. "I feel like I'm losing my mind." Mrs. Johnson smiled gently. "You're not losing your mind, dear," she said. "You're just feeling overwhelmed. But I can help you. I can connect you with some people who can give you the support you need." I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this. Maybe there were people who could help me, people who could give me the strength and the courage I needed to face my daughter. As Mrs. Johnson left, promising to connect me with some people who could help, I felt a sense of determination rising up inside me. I was going to fight back, I was going to take control of my life. I was going to show my daughter that I wasn't a pushover, that I wasn't someone to be trifled with. I sat down at my desk, feeling a sense of purpose. I was going to write a letter to my daughter, a letter that would tell her exactly how I felt. I was going to tell her that I loved her, but that I wouldn't be blackmailed. I was going to tell her that I was willing to work through our problems, but that I wouldn't be treated like this. As I began to write, I felt a sense of clarity rising up inside me. I knew exactly what I wanted to say, exactly how I wanted to say it. I was going to be calm, I was going to be rational, but I was also going to be firm. I wrote for hours, pouring my heart and soul onto the page. When I finished, I felt a sense of satisfaction. I had said exactly what I needed to say, exactly what I wanted to say. I sealed the letter in an envelope, feeling a sense of determination. I was going to mail it to my daughter, and I was going to wait for her response. I was going to take control of my life, and I was going to show my daughter that I wasn't someone to be trifled with. As I walked to the mailbox, feeling the letter in my hand, I felt a sense of trepidation. What would my daughter's response be? Would she be angry, or would she be willing to listen? I didn't know, but I was ready for whatever came next. I was ready to fight back, to take control of my life. I walked to the mailbox, feeling the letter in my hand, and dropped it in. I watched as it disappeared into the slot, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. It was done. I had taken a stand, and now all I could do was wait. As I walked back to my house, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anxiety. What would my daughter's response be? Would she be angry, or would she be willing to listen? I had no idea, but I knew that I had to be prepared for anything. I spent the rest of the day pacing back and forth in my living room, trying to distract myself from the thoughts racing through my mind. But no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in the pit of my stomach. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the sound of the mailman approaching. I rushed to the door, my heart racing with anticipation. And then, I saw it. A letter, addressed to me, with my daughter's handwriting on the envelope. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. I had to be prepared for anything. I opened the letter, and my eyes scanned the page. My daughter's words jumped out at me, like a slap in the face. "You're just trying to avoid paying me," she wrote. "You're just trying to get out of your responsibilities. But it won't work. I'll make sure that everyone knows what kind of person you are. I'll make sure that you regret ever trying to cross me." I felt a wave of anger wash over me, followed by a sense of fear. What was my daughter capable of? Would she really try to ruin my reputation, to hurt me in any way that she could? I tried to calm myself down, to think rationally. But it was hard to shake the feeling of unease that had settled in the pit of my stomach. I knew that I had to be careful, that I had to be prepared for anything. As I stood there, trying to process my daughter's words, I heard a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Johnson, my neighbor. She looked concerned, and I could tell that she had seen the look on my face. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft with concern. I hesitated, unsure of how much to tell her. But then, I realized that I had to trust someone. I had to trust that Mrs. Johnson would be on my side, that she would help me through this difficult time. "It's my daughter," I said, my voice shaking. "She's trying to blackmail me. She's trying to hurt me in any way that she can." Mrs. Johnson's expression turned stern. "We'll get through this," she said. "We'll figure out a way to deal with your daughter, to make her see sense." I felt a sense of gratitude towards Mrs. Johnson. She was the only person who seemed to understand me, the only person who seemed to be on my side. Together, we sat down and started to brainstorm. We came up with a plan, a way to deal with my daughter and her demands. It was a risk, but it was the only way to move forward. As we sat there, plotting and planning, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. What would happen next? Would my daughter back down, or would she continue to try and hurt me? I didn't know, but I was ready for anything. I was ready to fight back, to take control of my life. And with Mrs. Johnson by my side, I felt like I could handle anything that came my way. But as we were about to put our plan into action, the phone rang. It was my daughter, and she was furious. "You think you can outsmart me?" she screamed. "You think you can get away with this? Well, you're wrong. I'll make sure that you pay for what you've done." I felt a chill run down my spine. What had I done? What had I done to deserve this kind of treatment? But before I could respond, my daughter hung up the phone. I was left standing there, feeling stunned and confused. What was going to happen next? Was my daughter going to try and hurt me, to ruin my reputation? I didn't know, but I was ready for anything. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. I had to be strong, I had to be brave. I had to face whatever came next, head on. And with that, I steeled myself for the fight of my life. I stood there, frozen in place, as the reality of the situation sunk in. My daughter had just threatened me, had just told me that she was going to make me pay for something. But what? What had I done to deserve this kind of treatment? I thought back to our conversations, to the arguments we had been having. But nothing seemed to make sense. I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind, like I was trapped in some kind of nightmare. And then, just as I was starting to calm down, I heard a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Johnson, my neighbor. She looked concerned, and I could tell that she had seen the look on my face. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft with concern. I hesitated, unsure of how much to tell her. But then, I realized that I had to trust someone. I had to trust that Mrs. Johnson would be on my side, that she would help me through this difficult time. "It's my daughter," I said, my voice shaking. "She just threatened me. She said she was going to make me pay for something." Mrs. Johnson's expression turned stern. "We'll get through this," she said. "We'll figure out a way to deal with your daughter, to make her see sense." I felt a sense of gratitude towards Mrs. Johnson. She was the only person who seemed to understand me, the only person who seemed to be on my side. Together, we sat down and started to brainstorm. We came up with a plan, a way to deal with my daughter and her demands. But as we were about to put our plan into action, I heard a noise coming from outside. It sounded like someone was rummaging through my trash cans. I got up to investigate, and that's when I saw her. My daughter was standing in my front yard, going through my trash. She looked up and saw me, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. I could see the anger in her eyes, the hatred. And I knew that I had to be careful. I had to be careful because I didn't know what she was capable of. "What are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. My daughter just shrugged. "I'm looking for something," she said. "Something that will prove what kind of person you are." I felt a chill run down my spine. What was she looking for? What could she possibly find in my trash that would prove anything? And then, just as I was starting to get really scared, I saw it. A piece of paper, crumpled up and thrown away. But my daughter saw it too, and she quickly picked it up. She smoothed it out, and I could see the look of triumph on her face. "This is it," she said. "This is what I've been looking for." I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was on that piece of paper, or what it could possibly mean. But I knew that I had to get it back. I had to get it back before my daughter could use it against me. I took a step forward, but my daughter just laughed. "You'll never get it back," she said. "You'll never be able to stop me now." And with that, she turned and ran. I was left standing there, feeling helpless and scared. I didn't know what to do, or how to stop my daughter. But I knew that I had to try. I had to try and get that piece of paper back, no matter what it took. I took off after my daughter, running as fast as I could. But she was too quick, and she disappeared into the night. I was left standing there, feeling defeated and scared. I didn't know what to do, or how to stop my daughter. But I knew that I had to keep trying. I had to keep fighting, no matter what. And so, I started to think. I started to think about what could be on that piece of paper, and how I could get it back. I started to think about my daughter, and what she was capable of. And I knew that I had to be careful. I had to be careful because I didn't know what she was going to do next. But I was determined to find out. I was determined to stop her, no matter what it took. I stood there, my mind racing with thoughts of what could be on that piece of paper. I knew I had to get it back, but I had no idea where to start. I decided to go back inside and try to think of a plan. As I sat down at the kitchen table, I noticed a piece of paper on the counter. It was a receipt from a local store, but something about it caught my eye. I picked it up and examined it closer. And then, I saw it. A phone number, scribbled on the back of the receipt. It was my daughter's handwriting. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I realized that this could be a clue. I quickly grabbed my phone and dialed the number. It rang a few times before a voice answered. Hello? It was a woman's voice, but it wasn't my daughter. Hi, I'm looking for my daughter, I said. She gave me this number and I was hoping to reach her. The woman hesitated before responding. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. But I think you should know that your daughter is in trouble. She's been making some bad choices and I'm not sure how much longer she can keep going down this path. My heart sank as I listened to the woman's words. What kind of trouble was my daughter in? And what did this woman have to do with it? I asked her to meet me in person, and she agreed. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown, and I hung up the phone. I was determined to get to the bottom of this and find out what was going on with my daughter. As I waited for the meeting, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I kept thinking about the piece of paper and what could be on it. And I couldn't help but wonder what my daughter was capable of. When I arrived at the coffee shop, the woman was already there. She introduced herself as Sarah, and we sat down at a table. So, what do you know about my daughter? I asked, getting straight to the point. Sarah hesitated before responding. I know that she's been involved with some shady people, she said. They're a group of individuals who are willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want. And your daughter is right in the middle of it all. I felt a chill run down my spine as I listened to Sarah's words. What had my daughter gotten herself into? And how could I get her out of it? I asked Sarah if she knew anything about the piece of paper, but she just shook her head. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. But I could tell that she was lying. I knew that she knew something, and I was determined to find out what it was. I pressed her for more information, but she refused to talk. I realized that I was going to have to take matters into my own hands if I was going to get to the bottom of this. I left the coffee shop, my mind racing with thoughts of what I was going to do next. I knew that I had to be careful, but I also knew that I had to act fast. I couldn't just sit back and wait for something to happen. I had to take control of the situation and make things happen. As I walked back to my car, I noticed a figure watching me from across the street. It was a woman with long, curly hair and a black leather jacket. She looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place her. And then, it hit me. She was the woman who had been going through my trash cans. My daughter's friend. I felt a surge of anger as I realized that she must have been the one who had given my daughter the piece of paper. I quickly got into my car and drove away, determined to find out more about this woman and what she had to do with my daughter's disappearance. I drove away from the coffee shop, my mind racing with thoughts of the mysterious woman and her connection to my daughter. I knew that I had to find out more about her, and I was determined to get to the bottom of things. I spent the rest of the day researching, trying to find any information I could about the woman and her involvement with my daughter. And then, just as I was about to give up, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello? I answered, my heart racing with anticipation. You're looking for me, a voice said on the other end of the line. It was the woman with the curly hair and black leather jacket. Who are you? I demanded, trying to keep my cool. My name is Rachel, she said. And I'm the one who's been helping your daughter get the justice she deserves. I was taken aback by her words. What do you mean? I asked, my curiosity piqued. Your daughter has been working with me to take down the people who wronged her, Rachel explained. And we've finally got the evidence we need to bring them to justice. I felt a surge of pride and relief at her words. My daughter was safe, and she was finally getting the justice she deserved. Where is she? I asked, my voice shaking with emotion. She's safe, Rachel said. But she wants to see you. She wants to tell you everything that's been going on. I nodded, even though Rachel couldn't see me. I'll be right there, I said. Rachel gave me an address, and I arrived at the location 20 minutes later. When I got there, I saw my daughter standing outside, a smile on her face. Mom, she said, running into my arms. I'm so sorry, she said, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry for everything. I held her close, tears of my own streaming down my face. "I love you," I said. "I'm just glad you're safe." We hugged for a long time, both of us crying tears of joy and relief. And then, we went inside to meet Rachel and the others. They told us the whole story, about how they had been working together to take down the people who had wronged my daughter. And when they were finished, we all hugged each other, tears of joy and relief streaming down our faces. It was a moment I would never forget, a moment of pure happiness and satisfaction. My daughter was safe, and she was finally getting the justice she deserved. And as we hugged each other, I knew that everything was going to be okay. We were going to be okay. The police arrived a few minutes later, and they took the people who had wronged my daughter away. My daughter and I watched as they were let out in handcuffs, a sense of satisfaction and closure washing over us. We had done it. We had finally gotten the justice we deserved. And as we hugged each other, I knew that everything was going to be okay. We were going to be okay. The days that followed were a blur of police interviews and court appearances. But in the end, it was all worth it. My daughter's attackers were convicted and sentenced to prison. And my daughter was finally able to move on with her life, free from the fear and anxiety that had haunted her for so long. I was so proud of her, for her strength and bravery. And I knew that I would always be there for her, no matter what. We had been through hell and back, but we had come out the other side, stronger and more resilient than ever. And as we sat on the couch together, holding hands and watching the sunset, I knew that everything was going to be okay. We were going to be okay.